Let's transition to a matchup in the NFC yesterday as Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints dominated Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. The Saints beat the Cowboys 44-19. For the game, Derek Carr, he went 11 of 16. He threw for 243 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Alvin Kamara was balling, 20 carries, 115 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns for the Cowboys. Dak Prescott, 27 of 39. He threw for 193 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. The Saints have scored 91 points in 2 games. The Cowboys' 16-game home win streak was snapped. So, my biggest takeaway from this Saints dominating 44-19 win over the Cowboys is the Dallas Cowboys were broken by the Green Bay Packers January 14th, 2024. And they have not been the same team ever since the Packers put a beat down on the Cowboys on January 14th in AT&T Stadium in front of thousands and thousands of Cowboy fans. In a game in which the Packers had 143 rushing yards, Aaron Jones had 118 rushing yards alone and 3 touchdowns. Aaron Jones is still running on that Cowboys defense. And in this game, Alvin Kamara had a similar performance against this Cowboys defense, just like Aaron Jones had an elite performance against this Cowboys defense in the playoff game in January. In this game, the Saints, for the game, they had 190 rushing yards. Alvin Kamara had arguably his best game in the last 2 years. That's how great Alvin Kamara played in this game. Alvin Kamara, he had, in the last 2 years, Alvin Kamara's had 10 total touchdowns. He had 4 touchdowns yesterday against this Cowboys defense. And for the game, Alvin Kamara, 20 carries, 115 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, averaged close to 6 yards per carry. He averaged 5.8 yards per carry. I'm going to give him 6 yards per carry against that Cowboys defense. And Kamara even had 2 receptions for 65 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. So, I'm going to get to Dak Prescott and that Cowboys offense here in a second, but I have to call out that Cowboys defense and defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer. Because during the offseason, once the Cowboys lost their former defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, who's the now head coach of the Washington Commanders, they replaced Dan Quinn with Mike Zimmer. So Cowboy fans were telling me and telling everyone else, we're going to be fine defensively. We have Mike Zimmer now replacing Dan Quinn, so we're going to be fine. And in this game proved that the Cowboys are still the same soft, yes, I said soft, S-O-F-T, soft defense in 2024 that they were in 2023. This is a soft defense. I got to call out these players on this Cowboys defense. DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, Mozzie Smith, Damon Clark, Eric Kendricks. In the secondary, Trayvon Diggs, Malik Hooker, Jordan Lewis. This Cowboys defense, they can't stop the run. And that's their biggest issue. When they go up against teams like the 49ers, like the Packers, like the Saints, like the Lions, they cannot stop the run. And they're soft as a football team. This is the 5th time under Mike McCarthy that they've given up 40 points or more since 2020, okay? And here's another key stat. This was the first time in 56 years that a team allowed 44 points or more in consecutive home games. The Packers dropped 48 on the Cowboys in the playoff game in January, and the Saints scored 44 points on the Cowboys yesterday afternoon in Dallas at AT&T Stadium. That's the first time it's happened in 56 years for a team in consecutive home games. So what it told me was the Packers broke the Cowboys, and they have not recovered since. That's what it told me. And I'm looking at the Saints. They scored a touchdown on each of their first 6 drives. Let me give you the total yardage on those first 6 drives scored by the Saints. 80 yards, 70 yards, 70 yards, 70 yards, 20 yards, and 69-yard touchdown drives by the Saints in this game. So 5 of the 6 drives were 69 yards or more. They got completely dominated. That Saints offense dominated that Cowboys defense. And again, I want to talk about Dak Prescott here in a minute, but you can't blame Dak Prescott for this Cowboys loss. This loss is on defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer and head coach Mike McCarthy. This was an embarrassing performance if you are the Dallas Cowboys. And the thing about Dak Prescott is he's a front runner. He's a front runner because this is since the beginning of last season. When the Cowboys either have the lead or the game is tied, Dak Prescott has 26 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. When the Cowboys are trailing, Dak Prescott has 12 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. So he's a front runner. He plays well when the Cowboys have a lead. But if they are trailing in a football game and they need Dak Prescott to bail them out, Dak Prescott is not the kind of quarterback who you can depend on to bail you out in football games when you're trailing. He's a quarterback that plays well with the lead, but if he doesn't have a lead, he's not going to overcome a 14 or a 17-point deficit. That's not who Dak Prescott is. And so I'm looking at the Cowboys. 4 of their next 5 opponents are elite teams who run the football very, very well. The Ravens, Steelers, Lions, 49ers. So 4 of the next 5 opponents are teams who run the football at an elite level. So Jerry Jones, after the game, is talking about we're going to have to fix this. We're going to have to figure this out. Unless you change your personnel, you're not going to be able to figure this out, Jerry. This is who your team is. This is who they are. Allowing 190 rushing yards. Saints had 15 first downs by running the football. So I just don't know where the Cowboys go from here. And this is the teams that they're playing, they're going off and running the Shanahan offense. The Shanahan offense is what they're running. And in the NFC, a lot of teams run that offense, the Shanahan offense. Green Bay, Detroit, San Francisco, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, the LA Rams as well. So unless the Cowboys can figure out a way to stop this type of offense, I don't see the Cowboys being Super Bowl contenders. Now, I had the Cowboys as a playoff team in the NFC, but honestly, after watching that game yesterday, I'm not even sure the Cowboys are a playoff team because for my playoff predictions, they were the 7th team in the playoffs in the NFC. Because in the NFC alone, Detroit's a better football team than the Cowboys are. Green Bay is better. San Francisco is better. I think the LA Rams are better than the Cowboys as well. I know the Rams are 0-2, but I think the Rams are better than the Cowboys. Saints are better than the Cowboys right now. Tampa Bay are better than the Cowboys right now. And I didn't even have the Buccaneers making the playoffs, but they've played well in their first 2 games of the season against the Commanders and against the Lions yesterday. So are they going to be a playoff team? I don't know. I think right now, for me, I don't think the Bears are a playoff team in the NFC. And I think the Cowboys are more so on the Bears level than some of those other elite teams that I just brought up. Like, they're not better. And even the Eagles as well. They're not better than the Eagles. So Eagles, Lions, Packers, 49ers, Rams, Buccaneers, Saints, all 7 or 8 of those teams I just named are better than the Cowboys because the Cowboys defensively, they're not a physical football team. They have a lot of speed and they can fly around when they have a lead. That's the type of defense they have. They play well when they have a lead. But if they don't have a lead and you're able to run the football on the Cowboys, that's when they struggle. And that's the weakest part of their football team. Their inability to stop the run. I'm also going to give some credit to the New Orleans Saints. In 2 games, the Saints have scored 91 points. And Derek Carr, quietly, Derek Carr has played well in his last 6 games. In his last 6 games, Derek Carr is 5-1, 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. His passer rating in his last 6 games is 129.9. So Derek Carr's played well in his last 6 games, and they beat Tampa Bay, Atlanta, and Dallas in those games, 3 average to good teams. So we got to give Derek Carr some credit. He's playing well. Dennis Allen, I said before the season, we're going to find out if he's going to still have a job after Thanksgiving. He'll be lucky. I said he'll be lucky to still have a job by Thanksgiving. Looks like Dennis Allen will be around for the entire season, the way the Saints are currently playing. And again, Alvin Kamara had a blast from the past performance because we forgot how great of a player Alvin Kamara is. Alvin Kamara is in that conversation with the Aaron Jones of the world, the Christian McCaffreys of the world, the Joe Mixons of the world, the Saquon Barkleys of the world, the Derrick Henrys of the world. Alvin Kamara is also in that conversation. And yesterday he showed great ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. I think he had 2 receptions for 65 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. He caught that screen, took it to the house. And again, last 2 years, 10 touchdowns. Yesterday he had 4 touchdowns alone. So shout out to Alvin Kamara, shout out to Derek Carr, and shout out to the New Orleans Saints off to a 2-0 start for the season. And right now in the NFC South, it's the Saints and the Buccaneers. We'll see what the Falcons do tonight against the Eagles, but Saints were balling yesterday, and the Saints definitely went marching in, and they went into Dallas, and they steamrolled the Cowboys 44-19.